So we'll keep moving here, and this is an interesting one. The influenza H1N1 vaccine in 2009, the package insert says, quote, safety and effectiveness of influenza A, H1N1, 2000 monovalent vaccine have not been established in pregnant women or nursing mothers or children less than 6 months of age. Yet, they were giving them to pregnant women, and the vaccine insert even says that. And that's a big problem, is a lot of safety studies haven't been done on vaccines. You know, most FDA regulated drugs have 4, 5, 6, 7 year safety studies before they're even approved, but they fast track vaccines, and in some cases only a few days or a month or two. So there's no time to see what other problems are arising as a result of these vaccines in their safety studies. You want to know another crazy thing about the vaccine safety studies? So you've all heard of a placebo, right? A placebo is generally saline solution. So it's a completely inert substance that you compare to the drug in your study. So half the group gets a placebo, half the group gets the regular drug, or the vaccine in this case. There are several vaccines, and the HPV vaccine is one of these, but there are several where they put aluminum, the same amount of aluminum in the placebo as they put in the vaccine, and gave them to the groups. So guess what they're doing? They're trying to mask the side effects, because the placebo group is having the same rate of side effects as the group getting the vaccine, right? So they're saying, oh, see, there's no difference. There's no difference here. It's like smoke and mirrors. It's like a shell game. So, you know, again, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of bias and things like that that go into vaccine research. So here's the thing. Remember 2009, where we were 34th in infant mortality? So by 2016, we had dropped 23 positions from 2009 to 57th. And that's as the doses of vaccines were increased. So basically, and the under 5 mortality, as it says here, according to this international organization, we were 32nd. But when you look at it, there's only 35 countries in that international organization. So they looked at 35 of the most, you know, relative economic powerhouses in the world, and we were 32nd out of 35, like 3 from the worst infant mortality out of all 35 of those. So there's even several third world countries now that have better mortality rates than the United States. So let's take a look at I'm going to scroll this, you know, and we have the best. So why would that be? I mean, we have the best medical care in the world. We have the best medical technology in the world, the best access to medical care in the world. We have the best hospitals in the world. We have the most highly trained and specialized doctors in the world. We have the best nurses and pediatric care in the world. We have the best pediatric intensive care in the world. We give the highest number of vaccines by age 6 in the world. So here's the problem. You know, I mean, you can't deny that something is wrong. We have all these things going for us that should give us close to the highest, or the lowest, the highest in ranking as far as the best infant mortality rate, and we are down at the lowest. So here's just a couple, you know, there's 225 countries that this study looked at, the CIA fact book from the CIA. 225 countries. So these are the best ones. And you can see the infant mortality rates here, like Monaco was the best. It was 1.8, and then Sweden was 2.6. But the United States is 170 out of those 225, you know, with an infant mortality rate of 5.8. That means there are 55 countries with better infant mortality rates. So these are just some of the countries, the more obscure countries, like Isle of Man. I don't even know where that is. Faroe Islands, Cuba has better infant mortality rates, Estonia, Anguilla, Jersey. It's just, so it's crazy when you look at this. Here's one more graph for you here. This is the lowest 8. See, these numbers on the top of each bar is the number of vaccine doses. Now this is from 2009. Way over at the right, you see Sweden and Japan and Israel and Finland, many of the ones that were at the lowest of that list. And at that time, by age 6, children were getting 36 vaccines. So look at the United States, way down on the left, how many vaccines we're getting. And now, we've gone from 36 to 48 doses. So we've piled on. We've added another 12 doses to children by age 6. So here's an interesting one that looks at the autism rate based on the number of doses or compared to. The left-hand column, you see the United States. The number of mandatory vaccines for under 5-year-olds is 36. And then let's look at some of those better countries, the best countries. So our autism rate, just to the right of the number 36, is 1 in 150. And you look at these other numbers, 1 in 1100, 1 in 2000, 1 in 719, 1 in 2200. The rates of autism are nowhere near what they are here in the United States. And then at the far right, you look at the mortality rates, the second column from the right, per 1,000 children under 5 years, we are the worst. The mortality rate in the worldwide rank, we are the worst in that too. So there's definitely some correlation there. They always tell us, correlation doesn't mean causation, right? Doesn't mean causation. What about, okay, we've been hearing a lot, let's talk about current events. We've been hearing a lot about the measles crisis. The measles we're going to return to thousands of children dying every year before the measles vaccine. The measles vaccine saved us, it saved us from these thousands of kids dying every year. Did it really? Let's take a look at that. This graph is from the vital statistic rates in the United States. This is the U.S. measles mortality or death rates. If you look at from 1900, the measles went up and down, and I don't want to mislead you. Measles is a deadly disease. It's a very deadly disease. It still kills tens of thousands of children in some countries in the world. And in the 1900s, the state of health of people in the United States, and I'll explain this in a minute, was not good. The cities were overcrowded. They had no sewer or sanitation. The nutrition was bad. There was a lot of pollution and overcrowding, and it was ripe for infectious disease outbreaks back then. There's no fortification of vitamin fortification of food, so we'll get into some of that. But look at the black arrow going down. That is a trajectory of the decreasing rate of the death rate from measles before 1950. Now look at way down from 1950 to 1963. 1963 is where the measles vaccine was introduced. The measles death rate was close to zero. It had reduced actually 99.4%. 99.4% before the measles vaccine was introduced. So don't let them tell you that the measles vaccine has saved us from these deaths from measles. This chart shows other infectious diseases, in fact, from 1900 through the 1960s. Look at all these infectious diseases. They went down, 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 and typically the death rates from those diseases were almost zero before the vaccines were introduced. But yet, the vaccine manufacturers want to take credit for these, including polio. Polio is another one. So let's look at something else that's very interesting here. Why? Okay, why did those death rates go down? Here's a picture from like the late 1900 or 1800s, looking at the cities, the state and the cities. There are horses in the street pooping everywhere. There were rats. They didn't have garbage trucks coming and picking up your garbage. Garbage would pile up in the alleys, pile up in the streets. They had open sewer lines between, let me show you this next picture. They had open sewer lines behind these big tenement houses and where people lived. This was just a petri dish, is a putrid living conditions. And so when something like smallpox or diphtheria or some of these diseases would catch hold in this type of an environment, yeah, it was really risky. And the reason why measles is still deadly in some countries in the world, some people still live this way. They might be in a village in Africa, but they don't have access to good food. They don't have access to clean water. They don't have any sanitary conditions. They don't know about personal hygiene. There's so many reasons why measles is deadly in those places. Rampant malnutrition. So this is what really saved us. And you'll see at the bottom an interesting citation or reference for this. Improvements in proper waste disposal and sanitation, availability of healthy food and vitamin fortification, clean water supplies, knowledge of personal hygiene, vitamin supplementation. In fact, the World Health Organization now is using vitamin A supplementation in third world countries and dramatically decreasing the measles rate and curing measles with high-dose vitamin A. So, if we just would teach people, instead of fear-mongering on TV, we'd teach parents about giving your children some vitamin A. It would help protect them from all of these infectious diseases. But, of course, that's not the narrative they want to push. Preventative health measures, good medical care. Notice the website there. That was right from the CDC's website. So the CDC knows this is true. They know this is true, but yet they want to push another narrative because there is bias and and I'm going to bring this up just so you know. I want you to know. I don't want to elaborate on it too much, but The CDC and the pharmaceutical industry is like a revolving door. They have this incestuous relationship. So people who are top people in the vaccine manufacturers, they get elected or positioned into the CDC, and then people from the CDC get very high-paying positions in these vaccine companies. So they move back and forth between. So it's like the fox watching the hen house. They're really not protecting our best interests. In many cases, it appears that they're protecting the best interests of the pharmaceutical industry.